Daniel Hayes leaned forward in the driver's seat of his 2005 Chevrolet, squinting at the fuel gauge as it dipped perilously close to empty. The needle quivered with each bump on the forgotten stretch of asphalt, matching the nervous rhythm of his heartbeat. Through the rearview mirror, he caught a glimpse of Noah's reflection, the 5-year-old's face illuminated by the blue glow of a battered tablet as his small fingers traced complex mathematics problems meant for children twice his age. The GPS had lost signal 20 minutes ago, leaving them adrift in a landscape of scrub brush and distant mesas. Daniel's knuckles whitened against the steering wheel. This wasn't how he'd envisioned spending the precious day off from job hunting, chasing fragments of a mystery through the American Southwest based on half-remembered notes in his late wife's journal. Rebecca's voice seemed to whisper from the pages he'd found hidden in her medical files. Project Protector might be connected to everything. The words had become an obsession since he'd discovered them 3 weeks ago, tangled among blood test results and oncology reports. Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that her inexplicable cancer had been more than tragic coincidence. Noah's voice cut through the whirring of the struggling air conditioner. "My battery's at 5%. His words were measured and precise, a trait that sometimes made Daniel's chest ache with recognition. Rebecca's methodical mind lived on in their son. The dashboard lights suddenly flickered, and the engine coughed. Daniel swallowed hard against the dryness in his throat. Breaking down in the middle of nowhere with a 5-year-old wasn't an option. The insurance bills from Rebecca's treatment had drained their savings, and the rent on their small Chicago apartment was already 2 weeks overdue. A tow truck out here would cost more than he could afford to spend. A weathered wooden sign appeared around the bend. "Miller's Gas and Service," issued 2 miles ahead on Route 47. Daniel released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. They might make it after all. The steering wheel vibrated beneath his palms as the car limped around the curve, revealing a single-story building with rust-streaked gas pumps standing like forgotten sentinels. The place looked like a relic from another era, its faded blue paint peeling to reveal the weathered wood beneath. A neon "open" sign flickered half-heartedly in the window, seemingly surprised by its own persistence. As Daniel eased the car to a stop beside one of the ancient pumps, he took inventory of his surroundings with the instinctive vigilance 8 years in the Navy had instilled in him. Something about this place felt off. Despite its dilapidated appearance, a gleaming satellite dish was mounted on the roof, and he spotted what looked suspiciously like a disguised security camera tucked beneath the awning's edge. Noah pressed his face against the passenger window, eyes wide with curiosity. "It looks like something from one of those old movies you like." Daniel nodded, unbuckling his seatbelt. The bell that announced their arrival chimed cheerfully, its bright tone incongruous with the worn linoleum floor and flickering fluorescent lights. Behind the counter, a woman in her early 30s glanced up from what appeared to be a technical manual. She closed it quickly, but not before Daniel caught a glimpse of complex diagrams that looked more like quantum physics than light reading. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore a simple gray sweater despite the desert heat. What caught Daniel's attention, however, were her eyes, sharp and assessing, seeming to catalog every detail about him in seconds. The watch on her wrist looked expensive, but understated with more dials than seemed necessary for simply telling time. The name tag pinned to her sweater read Olivia Miller. "Welcome to Miller's." Her voice was calm and measured. "Can I help you find something?" Noah had already wandered toward a glass display case filled with candy, though Daniel knew his son wasn't expecting any. It was the packaging that fascinated him, the ingredients lists and nutritional information that he would read aloud like others might recite poetry. "Just gas and maybe some coffee if you have it. My son and I have been on the road since dawn." Daniel gestured toward the sputtering car outside its hood, ticking as the overheated engine cooled. Olivia's gaze flickered to Noah, then back to Daniel. "The coffee's fresh. I grind the beans every morning." She moved with practiced efficiency, reaching for a mug. "My father always said fresh coffee is one of life's small luxuries that everyone could afford." At the mention of her father, something shifted in her expression, a quick shadow that vanished almost instantly. Daniel had seen that look before in the mirror each morning as he shaved. The carefully controlled grief of someone accustomed to hiding their pain. The coffee was indeed exceptional, rich and complex in a way that chain store brews never managed. Daniel savored it, watching as Noah examined a collection of wooden toys displayed near the window. Unlike the plastic battery-operated gadgets that dominated toy store shelves, these were simple, well-crafted items that invited imagination. Olivia moved from behind the counter, approaching Noah with a respectful distance. "That car is special." Her voice softened. "A man in Vermont carves each one by hand. No two are exactly alike." Noah ran his fingers over the smooth wooden surface, tracing the grain with the same concentration he applied to his mathematics problems. "Did your dad teach you about toys too?" A smile transformed Olivia's face, erasing years of tension in an instant. "He taught me about many things. The best way to understand something is to take it apart and put it back together again. My dad teaches me things too." Noah's voice brightened with pride. "He showed me how to change a tire and check the oil in our car, but he doesn't know how to fix computers very well." Daniel felt heat rise to his cheeks as he made his way to the register to pay for the gas. "I'm better with mechanical systems than digital ones. What kind of work do you do?" Olivia's question held genuine curiosity rather than the polite small talk Daniel had grown accustomed to from strangers. "I'm between jobs right now. I'm an electrical engineer." Or I was. Daniel hadn't meant to add that last part, but something about Olivia's direct gaze made him more forthcoming than usual. 8 years in the Navy, then a decade at Meridian Systems until the layoff 6 months ago. Olivia's eyes widened almost imperceptibly at the mention of Meridian Systems. The defense contractor, she turned slightly, adjusting a stack of papers on the counter with unnecessary precision. Daniel nodded, wondering at her reaction. The conversation was interrupted by Noah's excited voice calling from across the store. "Dad, look. This old computer has actual buttons instead of a touchscreen." Olivia visibly relaxed as the subject changed. "It's an IBM model from 1980. My father kept it working all these years. Would you like to see how it turns on?" As Noah eagerly followed Olivia's instructions, Daniel took the opportunity to survey the store more carefully. Behind the vintage cash register, he spotted a modern surveillance system monitor that had been partially concealed behind a shelf. The contrast between the outdated facade and the cutting-edge security measures became increasingly apparent the more he looked. Reinforced door frames disguised as decorative trim, a keypad lock hidden beneath an ordinary-looking counter panel. When they finally pulled away from Miller's Gas and Service 20 minutes later, with a full tank, Daniel found himself taking mental notes of landmarks, committing the route to memory. Something about Olivia Miller and her isolated gas station had awakened the investigative instincts he'd developed during his military service. Her reaction to Meridian Systems hadn't been random. There was recognition there, perhaps even concern. During the 3-hour drive back to their rented apartment on the outskirts of Chicago, Daniel's mind kept returning to the odd contradiction of advanced technology hidden within the deliberately antiquated service station. When Noah finally dozed off in the back seat, Daniel allowed himself to consider the possibility that Miller's Gas and Service might somehow connect to the cryptic notes in Rebecca's journal. The days that followed brought a succession of failed job interviews and increasingly desperate attempts to make ends meet. Each evening, Daniel would sit at their small kitchen table after Noah was asleep, poring over Rebecca's journals and medical records, searching for connections that might explain her final writings about Project Protector. The refrigerator door remained bare of photographs or children's artwork, a blank white void that Noah had asked about once but never mentioned again. Daniel couldn't bring himself to fill that space, as though doing so would somehow finalize Rebecca's absence from their lives. 2 years had passed since cancer had taken her, yet some mornings he still reached for her across the empty sheets before consciousness fully claimed him. A week after their first visit, Daniel found himself once again driving the winding route to Miller's Gas and Service, telling himself it was simply a pleasant drive with his son, nothing more. Yet the folder of Rebecca's notes lay on the passenger seat, and questions about Olivia Miller's possible connection to Meridian Systems burned in his mind. This time, the station's parking lot held another vehicle, a black SUV with government plates that sent a chill of recognition down Daniel's spine. He'd seen similar vehicles at Meridian. As they approached the entrance, the SUV pulled away, revealing a glimpse of men in dark suits inside. Olivia stood behind the counter, her posture rigid as she watched the vehicle depart through the window. When the bell announced their arrival, she startled visibly before composing herself. "You came back." It wasn't a question, but a statement tinged with something that might have been relief. Noah immediately gravitated toward the wooden toys, allowing Daniel to approach the counter with casual deliberation. The coffee was worth the drive. He studied her expression, noting the slight tension around her eyes. Those men, government types. Her fingers twitched almost imperceptibly against the counter. Tax assessors. Nothing interesting. She turned away, busying herself with the coffee maker. The usual Daniel nodded, watching as she measured beans with scientific precision. His attention caught on a small scar along her wrist, partially concealed by her watch band, the kind of mark left by laboratory accidents. It matched a similar one he'd acquired during his work on prototype electrical systems at Meridian. My wife used to work at Meridian Systems too, in the research division. Rebecca Hayes. Daniel kept his voice casual, though his heart hammered against his ribs. The coffee canister slipped from Olivia's grasp, scattering beans across the counter. She recovered quickly, sweeping them into her palm. I'm sorry to hear you lost your wife. When did she pass 2 years ago? Cancer. Daniel watched her reaction carefully. Rare form aggressive. The doctors couldn't explain how someone her age with no family history or risk factors developed it so suddenly. Olivia's expression remained neutral, but her pulse visibly quickened at her throat. Life can be cruelly random that way. Before Daniel could press further, Noah appeared at his side, clutching an old book he'd found on a shelf. It's got pictures of stars and planets. His excitement momentarily derailed Daniel's questioning. Olivia seemed to relax slightly as she addressed Noah. My father was an amateur astronomer. He built a telescope powerful enough to see Saturn's rings from our roof. As Noah eagerly flipped through the astronomy book, Daniel noticed Olivia checking her watch, the third time in 5 minutes. The movement drew his attention to a small screen embedded in what appeared to be an ordinary timepiece. Definitely not standard issue. The conversation shifted to safer topics, but Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that Olivia was constantly evaluating him, measuring his words against some internal metric. When she offered to show Noah how the old-fashioned gas pumps worked, Daniel seized the opportunity to glance behind the counter. Partially hidden beneath a stack of invoices lay a technical journal open to an article about electromagnetic shielding technologies, precisely the kind of research Rebecca had been involved with at Meridian. Daniel committed the journal name and date to memory, just as Olivia and Noah returned, the boy chattering excitedly about mechanical counters and analog displays. They visited the station twice more over the next 10 days, each time under the pretense of enjoying the drive and Noah's fascination with the vintage equipment. During each visit, Daniel cataloged new inconsistencies. The faint hum of advanced machinery beneath the floorboards, brief crackling transmissions over a radio. Olivia quickly silenced her extensive knowledge of electrical engineering that emerged during conversations with Noah about how things worked. On their fourth visit, the desert sky had darkened, with approaching thunderclouds casting premature shadows across the worn asphalt. Noah had been unusually quiet during the drive, his normally bright eyes dulled and cheeks flushed with what Daniel now recognized as the beginning of a fever. Daniel, I don't feel good. Noah's voice was unnervingly small as they pulled into the station's parking lot. Daniel pressed a palm to his son's forehead, alarmed by the heat radiating from his skin. Let's get you some water and children's aspirin. We'll head straight back afterward. But inside the store, Noah's condition deteriorated rapidly. One moment he was sitting quietly on a chair Olivia had provided, sipping water. The next, his small body went rigid, eyes rolling back as seizure tremors overtook him. Daniel's military training kicked in as he lowered Noah to the floor, turning him onto his side while Olivia was already on the phone. No signal. Her voice cracked with genuine concern. The nearest hospital is 60 miles away. Noah's breathing had become labored, his temperature spiking dangerously high. Daniel felt panic rising in his chest, the same helpless terror he'd experienced watching Rebecca slip away despite the best medical care money could buy. I have medical supplies in my quarters. Olivia hesitated for only a moment before making a decision. Bring him. Now, she led them through a door marked private behind the counter, revealing a small apartment with sparse practical furnishings. But instead of heading toward a bedroom, she pressed her palm against what appeared to be a solid wall. A hidden panel slid open, exposing a modern elevator that contrasted starkly with the vintage aesthetics of the store. My father was paranoid about emergencies out here. Her explanation sounded rehearsed as the elevator descended. He built a medical room after my mother died. The doors opened onto a space that defied all expectations, a gleaming laboratory that would have looked at home in the most advanced research facilities Daniel had ever seen. One section had indeed been equipped as a medical treatment area with monitoring equipment and pharmaceutical supplies that no ordinary gas station owner could possibly access. Daniel cradled Noah against his chest, too concerned for his son to question the incongruity. Whatever this place was, whatever secrets Olivia was hiding, none of it mattered if they couldn't bring Noah's fever down. Lay him here. Olivia moved with the confident efficiency of someone with medical training, connecting monitors to Noah's small body and preparing an IV line. It's likely a febrile seizure, frightening but rarely dangerous if treated promptly. Her fingers flew across a keyboard, bringing up a diagnostic program that began analyzing Noah's vital signs. Within minutes, she had administered medication through the IV, and the monitors showed Noah's heart rate beginning to stabilize. The fever reducer should take effect soon. Olivia's clinical demeanor softened as she looked at the unconscious child. He's going to be all right. Daniel exhaled shakily, adrenaline giving way to exhausted relief as he sank into a chair beside the treatment bed. Only then did he allow himself to truly absorb their surroundings. The laboratory equipment that extended far beyond medical necessities, the bank of supercomputers humming along one wall, and most tellingly, the complex schematics displayed on multiple screens showing what appeared to be an advanced electromagnetic shield design. This isn't a medical room. Daniel's voice was quiet but firm. This is a research facility. Olivia stilled her back to him as she adjusted Noah's IV. Yes, but the medical equipment is real and your son is receiving proper care. Who are you really, and what is this place? Daniel rose from the chair, military training evident in his posture. Instead of answering, Olivia moved to one of the computer stations, typing a command that brought up a new image on the main display. A video file opened showing an older man with Olivia's same penetrating gaze, seated in what appeared to be this very laboratory. Daniel's breath caught in his throat as recognition dawned. Dr. William Miller had been a legend at Meridian Systems, a brilliant physicist who had reportedly died in a laboratory accident 5 years ago. The recorded Miller looked directly into the camera, his expression grave. If you're watching this, Daniel Hayes, then my contingency plan has been activated. My daughter has determined you can be trusted, which means you found your way to us despite the memory suppression protocols. Daniel felt the room tilt slightly beneath his feet. Memory suppression, he glanced at Olivia, whose expression revealed nothing. The recording continued, Miller's voice steady and measured. You and Rebecca were part of the original Protector research team. When you began questioning the project's military applications, Meridian's security division, a shadow organization called Division, had your memories selectively altered. Rebecca somehow broke through the conditioning. I believe that's why they silenced her. Daniel's knees weakened, forcing him back into the chair. The headaches he'd experienced after his stress leave from Meridian, the 6 weeks he couldn't fully account for, the strange sense of familiarity he'd felt upon seeing Miller's face. Pieces of a fragmented puzzle began aligning in his mind. Miller's recorded image leaned forward. I've gone into hiding because I discovered Division was planning to weaponize Protector technology, turning a defensive shield into an offensive electromagnetic pulse system that could cripple entire nations. Rebecca contacted me shortly before her diagnosis. She suspected something was wrong with her health, something deliberate. By then it was too late. The image shifted as Miller moved to stand beside a complex apparatus. This technology is worth approximately $200 million to the right buyers, but its true value is incalculable. In the wrong hands, it could destabilize global security. I've spent 5 years completing the research in secret, but critical components remain unsolved. Miller's eyes seemed to stare directly through the screen. Daniel, I trust you will help my daughter finish what we started and keep this technology from those who would misuse it. She's been alone too long. The video ended, leaving the laboratory in silence, broken only by the steady beep of Noah's heart monitor. Daniel stared at the blank screen, memories stirring like sediment disturbed in clear water. Fragments of conversations, laboratory procedures, Rebecca's excitement about the project's defensive potential. You knew who I was the moment I walked into your gas station. Daniel turned to face Olivia, who had moved to stand beside Noah's bed. She nodded, her composed facade finally cracking to reveal exhaustion and relief. I've been watching for you since my father died last year. The gas station's surveillance system is programmed to recognize certain faces, yours among them. When you mentioned Meridian, I knew it wasn't coincidence. Daniel glanced at his sleeping son, then back to the laboratory surrounding them. In Noah's seizure, his voice hardened. Was that convenient timing or something you arranged? Olivia's expression flashed with genuine hurt. I would never harm a child. His fever is real, likely a virus he picked up at school. But I won't pretend I'm not grateful for the opportunity to finally show you this place. We're running out of time. She moved to another workstation, bringing up satellite imagery of the surrounding desert. 3 different vehicles have surveilled this property in the past week. Division is closing in. They've always known my father didn't die in that lab accident, and they've been hunting for this facility ever since. Daniel studied the surveillance feeds, recognizing the black SUV he'd seen during their previous visit. His military training kicked in as he assessed potential threats, escape routes, defensible positions. Why did you wait until now to tell me everything? You've had multiple opportunities. I needed to be certain. Olivia's voice softened. My father trusted you, but people change. I had to know you were still the man he believed you to be. And Noah. Daniel gestured toward his son. Is he in danger now that he's been brought into this? Olivia met his gaze directly. Everyone connected to Protector is in danger. Division eliminated your wife when she started asking questions. They won't hesitate to use your son as leverage. Daniel moved to Noah's bedside, gently brushing damp hair from his forehead. The fever seemed to be subsiding, his breathing more regular. What exactly is this technology? What makes it worth killing for, rather than answering verbally? Olivia activated another system. A spherical chamber in the center of the laboratory hummed to life, generating a visible energy field that shimmered like heat waves on asphalt. Protector creates a selective electromagnetic shield that can be calibrated to neutralize specific frequencies. She adjusted several parameters on the control panel. In its defensive configuration, it can protect infrastructure from EMPs and similar attacks. But Division wants to reverse the technology, to create targeted electromagnetic pulses that could disable military and civilian systems without physical destruction. The implications were immediately clear to Daniel. A weapon that could silently disable electrical grids, communications networks, and defense systems without leaving physical evidence of attack. A perfect first strike capability that would be nearly impossible to attribute to the aggressor. How close are you to completing it? Daniel watched as the energy field stabilized, forming a perfect sphere. Olivia's expression tightened with frustration. The stabilization algorithm has eluded me. My father left fragmented notes, but the final breakthrough died with him. That's why he wanted you involved. Your specialty at Meridian was power distribution systems for sensitive electronics. As if responding to his father's voice, Noah stirred on the medical bed, eyelids fluttering open. Dad. His voice was weak but alert. Where are we? Daniel moved immediately to his son's side, relief washing over him. Hey, buddy, you got pretty sick, but Ms. Miller had some medicine to help you feel better. Noah's gaze traveled around the laboratory, widening with wonder rather than fear. This looks like a superhero base. Olivia approached, cautiously checking the monitors beside the bed. Your fever is coming down nicely. How are you feeling? Thirsty? And my head hurts a little. Noah's attention had already shifted to the glowing energy field. Is that a force field? Something like that? Olivia smiled, the expression transforming her face in a way that caught Daniel off guard. Would you like some water? As Olivia fetched water for Noah. Daniel noticed a framed photograph partially concealed beneath a stack of technical manuals on a nearby desk. He slid it free, his heart stuttering at the image. A group of scientists in a laboratory setting, including himself, Rebecca William Miller, and several others he vaguely remembered. Across the bottom, someone had written, Project Protector, Initial Team, 2015. 7 years ago, 2 years before Rebecca's death, a time period that existed in Daniel's memory only as a series of fragmented impressions and inexplicable gaps. Noah had fallen back asleep, the medication making him drowsy. Daniel carefully placed the photograph on the desk where Olivia couldn't miss seeing it when she returned. Your father left a message for me, but I need the whole truth from you now. His voice was steady, years of military discipline, providing structure against the emotional turmoil threatening to overwhelm him. Olivia set down the water glass, her fingers brushing against the photograph. She seemed to make a decision, moving to a locked cabinet that opened after a retinal scan. From inside, she withdrew a thick file folder. These are copies of my father's personal notes about Division and their infiltration of Meridian. She placed the folder on the desk beside the photograph. They include his suspicions about Rebecca's illness, targeted radiation poisoning designed to mimic aggressive cancer, virtually undetectable unless someone was specifically looking for it. Daniel's hands trembled as he opened the folder, revealing pages of handwritten notes, medical analyses, and surveillance photographs. The evidence was circumstantial but compelling, a pattern of accidents and sudden illnesses befalling key protector team members who had expressed ethical concerns. A page near the back contained a chemical analysis of a tissue sample labeled with Rebecca's patient number from the hospital. The conclusion was highlighted: trace signatures consistent with isotope RD7, a radioactive compound developed by a Division for targeted elimination of security risks. Exposure pattern indicates deliberate administration over 3 to 5 month period. The room seemed to tilt around Daniel as rage and grief collided within him. They murdered her, made me watch her die by inches believing it was natural. His voice emerged as barely more than a whisper. Olivia's hand came to rest lightly on his shoulder. I'm sorry. My father tried to warn her when she contacted him, but by then the damage was too advanced. Daniel closed the file, forcing himself to focus on the present danger rather than past losses. Noah's fever has broken. We need to get him somewhere safe, then figure out our next move. There's more. Olivia hesitated, then moved to another workstation. My father left contingency plans in case Division located this facility. She brought up a set of schematics, including a protocol to distribute the complete protector research to multiple trusted sources, simultaneously preventing any single entity from controlling the technology. Daniel studied the distribution system, his engineering mind automatically identifying potential improvements. But something doesn't add up. If your father completed most of the research, why haven't you activated the distribution protocol already? Olivia's expression darkened. The final stabilization algorithm is the key to everything. Without it, the technology is useless, or worse, dangerous. We need to solve that piece before we can distribute anything of value. A soft chime sounded from one of the security monitors. Olivia moved quickly to check at her posture, tensing. We have company. 2 vehicles just turned onto Route 47 heading this way. She magnified the image. Black SUVs, government plates. Daniel's military training took over as he assessed their options. How much time do we have? 10 minutes, maybe less. Olivia was already shutting down non-essential systems. The elevator is the only way in or out of this facility. We can't move Noah yet. Daniel glanced at his sleeping son, and we can't risk them finding this place. Olivia nodded grimly, moving to a wall panel that concealed what appeared to be weapons, including several non-lethal options. I was hoping for more time before this confrontation. Daniel checked the security feed again, counting 4 men in the approaching vehicles. Division operatives, most likely. Olivia handed him what looked like a modified taser. My father designed these specifically against Division's tactical gear. Their body armor is vulnerable to this frequency. As Daniel accepted the weapon, their fingers brushed momentarily. The contact sent an unexpected current of connection through him, a reminder that amid the chaos and danger, something human and vital remained at stake. How do you want to play this? His voice was calm now, the calm that had served him through the most dangerous missions during his military service. We stall. Olivia moved to a cabinet, retrieving what appeared to be ordinary gas station employee uniforms. If they're just conducting reconnaissance, they may leave without incident. If they're here for a full raid, Daniel understood the implication. They would have to fight their way out or activate the contingency protocol, potentially losing the critical breakthrough they still needed. As they prepared to return to the surface, Daniel paused beside Noah's bed, brushing his son's hair back gently. I'll be back soon, buddy. Just rest. Olivia watched the gesture with an unreadable expression. We'll protect him. Her voice held the weight of a promise more binding than any oath. The elevator ascended silently, transforming them from desperate scientists to ordinary gas station workers in the span of 30 seconds. As the doors opened onto the modest apartment behind the store, Daniel caught Olivia's arm. If anything happens to me, get Noah to my sister in Colorado. Her name is Jennifer Hayes. There's a letter in my glove compartment with her contact information. Olivia met his gaze, the professional mask slipping to reveal genuine emotion. Nothing will happen to either of you, not while I'm breathing. The bell above the store entrance chimed as they emerged from the apartment, perfectly timed with the arrival of two black SUVs in the parking lot. Four men in dark suits exited the vehicles, their movements betraying military training despite their civilian appearance. Olivia positioned herself behind the counter, the perfect image of a small business owner, while Daniel busied himself restocking a shelf of snack foods. Beneath his casual exterior, every sense was heightened, mapping distances to exits, calculating angles, and potential cover. The lead agent entered first, sunglasses hiding his eyes despite the dimming afternoon light. His gaze swept the store in a practice pattern before settling on Olivia. Ms. Miller. The man's voice was neutral, professional. I'm Agent Carson with the Department of Energy. We're conducting a routine survey of power usage anomalies in this region. Daniel kept his focus on the shelf, maintaining the appearance of a disinterested employee while positioning himself between the agents and the door leading to the apartment and the elevator beyond. Power anomalies. Olivia's performance was flawless, her tone reflecting the perfect blend of confusion and mild interest. Out here, we run mostly on our own generator since the grid is so unreliable. A second agent had positioned himself near the front window, ostensibly examining a rack of maps, but clearly establishing a sight line to the parking area. The third began a casual circuit of the store, while the fourth remained by the entrance. Yes, ma'am. Carson removed his sunglasses, revealing eyes as cold and evaluating as the barrel of a gun. Our satellites have detected unusual electromagnetic readings from this area. We're required to investigate any potential issues that might affect national infrastructure. Daniel recognized the careful phrasing for what it was: a fishing expedition wrapped in official terminology. These men weren't Department of Energy. The way they moved positioned themselves that controlled the space. They were military intelligence, possibly black ops. Well, I'm happy to show you our generator setup. Olivia's voice remained casual as she gestured toward the back of the store, though I can't imagine our little operation would register on any satellite. As Carson followed Olivia toward a maintenance door that Daniel knew led to an actual generator, likely installed specifically for this scenario, the agent circling the store paused near the candy display where Noah had stood earlier that day. You have a child visiting. The agent's question carried an undercurrent of calculation that sent a chill down Daniel's spine. My nephew, Olivia answered smoothly without breaking stride. My sister drops him off sometimes when she has appointments. Daniel continued arranging snack packages, fighting to maintain his neutral expression as the agent near the window spoke quietly into a concealed microphone. The words were barely audible, but military training had given Daniel exceptional hearing. Confirmed primary target and male subject present. No sign of the child mentioned in surveillance. They knew about Noah. The realization hit Daniel with the force of a physical blow. These men weren't here for a routine check. They had specific intelligence about who was in the gas station and were searching for his son. The maintenance door opened to reveal a perfectly ordinary generator setup, meticulously maintained, but nothing that would raise suspicions. Carson examined it with professional thoroughness while his team continued their subtle surveillance of the store. Everything seems in order here, Ms. Miller. Carson's tone remained neutral, but his eyes never stopped scanning, assessing. Though I am curious about the power consumption spikes our instruments detected last night. Quite substantial for a facility this size. Must be when the refrigeration units cycle. Olivia offered the explanation with casual confidence. They're ancient, not very efficient. I've been saving up to replace them. Carson nodded, clearly unconvinced, but unable to push further without revealing his true purpose. He reached into his jacket, producing a business card. If you notice any unusual electrical activity, please give us a call. For your safety, of course. The choreographed departure of the agents carried all the hallmarks of a tactical retreat rather than a conclusion. As the SUVs pulled away, Daniel moved to the window, watching until they disappeared around the bend. They'll be back. His voice was low tension, vibrating through each syllable. They were looking for Noah. Olivia was already locking the front door, flipping the sign to closed. How much did they actually know enough to be dangerous? Daniel helped her secure the windows. They mentioned surveillance. They know I'm here and they're aware of Noah's existence. They returned quickly to the hidden elevator, descending to the laboratory where Noah still slept peacefully on the medical bed. The monitoring equipment that showed his vital signs had stabilized completely, the fever broken. We need to accelerate our timeline. Olivia moved to the main computer system, bringing up the distribution protocol her father had designed. Once Division confirms this location, they'll return in force. Daniel checked the security feeds, which now showed the desert road empty in both directions. How long before they regroup and come back? Hours, not days. Olivia's fingers flew across the keyboard, initiating backup procedures. We need to solve the stabilization algorithm and distribute the complete technology package before they return. Daniel studied the complex equations displayed on the main screen, fragments of technical knowledge resurfacing from his suppressed memories. Something about the approach seemed familiar, a resonance pattern similar to work he'd done on shielding sensitive electronics from interference. Show me everything you have on the stabilization issue. His focus narrowed to the technical challenge, temporarily pushing aside the emotional turmoil of discovered betrayals and renewed grief. Olivia brought up multiple files, including simulation results showing catastrophic cascade failures when the shield was pushed beyond certain parameters. The problem is field coherence under variable loads. The shield becomes unstable when energy demands fluctuate rapidly. Daniel immersed himself in the data, his engineering mind finding familiar patterns in the chaos. This reminds me of the harmonic dampening system I worked on for naval radar installations. The principle was controlling feedback loops to prevent oscillation. Noah stirred on the medical bed, his small voice cutting through the tension. Dad, where are the bad guys? Did they leave? Daniel and Olivia exchanged a glance of shared concern. Daniel moved to his son's side, keeping his voice calm. How are you feeling, buddy? Better? Noah sat up, his eyes clear and alert as they scanned the laboratory. Did I dream about men in black suits? Daniel hesitated, torn between protecting his son from frightening truths and ensuring he understood enough to stay safe. Some men did come to the gas station, but they're gone now. Noah nodded with the solemn acceptance only children can manage. They were looking for the force field, weren't they? His gaze drifted to the spherical chamber where the energy field still shimmered. It's not stable, though. It's like bubbles that pop too easily. Both adults froze at Noah's observation. Daniel looked from his son to the energy field and back again. What do you mean, buddy? Noah shrugged, the gesture disarmingly casual amid the laboratory's tense atmosphere. The bubbles need to balance from the inside, not the outside. Otherwise, they pop when you touch them. Olivia moved closer, her expression intent. Noah, how would you make the bubbles stronger? With Noah's innocent yet insightful suggestion, a solution began to take shape in Daniel's mind. Instead of forcing stability from external controls, what if they created self-regulating feedback loops within the field itself? The concept was counterintuitive yet elegant, precisely the kind of breakthrough that often eluded conventional approaches. As the stabilization algorithm crystallized through their combined insights, Daniel felt a bittersweet certainty that this was why William Miller had wanted him involved. Not just for his technical expertise, but because Noah, a child who saw patterns with unfiltered clarity, might provide the perspective they needed. The security alert chimed again, more urgently this time. Olivia rushed to check the monitors, her expression hardening at what she saw. They're back, 6 vehicles this time, armed personnel. Daniel glanced at the progress bar showing the stabilization algorithm being integrated into the system. Not enough time to complete and distribute before they breached the facility. In that moment, looking between his son, the woman who had reluctantly drawn them into this dangerous world, and the technology that had already cost Rebecca her life, Daniel made his decision. This ends today. One way or another, the security monitors displayed 6 approaching vehicles, their dust trails illuminated by the setting sun. Daniel counted 14 armed personnel deploying in a textbook tactical formation. These weren't the same men from earlier, though. These operators moved with the practiced precision of an elite strike team. Olivia's fingers flew across the keyboard, initiating emergency protocols while keeping her voice steady for Noah's benefit. The security system can buy us maybe 3 minutes once they breach the store. We need to move quickly. Daniel lifted Noah from the medical bed, his son's weight a physical reminder of what was at stake. The distribution protocol isn't ready, and we can't outrun them. Olivia met his gaze, understanding passing between them without words. She reached beneath a workstation and extracted what appeared to be ordinary backpacks. 3 of them, including a child-sized version. My father prepared contingency measures for every scenario. She handed the smallest backpack to Noah, including escape. Noah shouldered his pack with solemn determination, his eyes wide but unafraid. Are we going on an adventure? Daniel's throat tightened at his son's resilience. Something like that, buddy. A secret mission. The monitors showed the strike team had reached the gas station entrance, deploying breach equipment with practiced efficiency. Olivia activated a final command sequence, then moved toward the far wall of the laboratory where a section of concrete slid away to reveal a narrow tunnel. Secondary exit. 5 miles through the maintenance tunnels to an exit point with emergency transportation. Her voice remained professional, but Daniel caught the slight tremor in her hands. We need to initiate the self-destruct before we leave. 20-minute delay. A thunderous boom echoed from above as the team breached the gas station's reinforced door. Daniel glanced at the main computer where the stabilization algorithm was still integrating with the main system. We can't destroy it. Not when we're this close to completing what your father started. Olivia hesitated, conflict evident in her expression. If Division gets this technology, they won't. Daniel moved to the distribution system interface, making rapid adjustments. I'll modify the protocol, set it to execute automatically once the algorithm finishes, but with corrupted data on the stabilization component. Understanding dawned in Olivia's eyes. A partial distribution, enough to establish prior art and prevent weaponization, but incomplete. The security feed showed the strike team had discovered the hidden elevator. They were overriding the controls beginning their descent. Daniel worked frantically programming the modified distribution, while Olivia gathered critical research components. Noah tugged at Daniel's sleeve, pointing to the spherical energy chamber. What about the bubbles? In that moment, Daniel saw the solution with perfect clarity, not just to their immediate escape, but to the algorithm itself. Olivia, can you configure the field generator for mobile deployment? Her eyes widened as she grasped his intention. Theoretically, yes, but it would be unstable unless we apply Noah's insight. Daniel was already moving to the control panel, self-regulating internal feedback loops. We don't need to stabilize it from outside. We need it to stabilize itself. The elevator indicator showed the strike team was halfway down. Olivia joined Daniel at the controls, their movements synchronized as they implemented the modified algorithm. The energy field pulsed, shifting from its chaotic flicker to a stable pearlescent glow. The field generator. Can we take it with us? Daniel gestured toward the device no larger than a microwave oven. It's too heavy for the tunnels. Olivia was already downloading the configuration to a secure drive. But we can take the prototype. She retrieved a briefcase-sized unit from a storage locker, a smaller version of the main generator. The elevator reached the bottom with a soft chime followed by the metallic sounds of tactical gear as the team prepared to breach the laboratory. Go. Now. Daniel urged Noah toward the tunnel entrance where Olivia stood waiting. I'll be right behind you. As Olivia and Noah disappeared into the darkness, Daniel completed the distribution protocol's programming. The system would wait until the algorithm finished integrating, then distribute the research to multiple secure repositories worldwide, minus the critical stabilization component they were taking with them. The laboratory door exploded inward in a cascade of reinforced metal and concrete dust. Daniel ducked behind a workstation as armed operators poured through the breach, their weapons trained on the room's perimeter. A tall figure entered last, surveying the laboratory with cold efficiency. Unlike the tactical team in their combat gear, this man wore an immaculate suit that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Colonel Frank Anderson. The name emerged from Daniel's fractured memories like a shark rising from dark waters. The man who had ordered Rebecca's death now stood mere feet away, examining the abandoned medical bed where Noah had lain. Where is the child? His voice carried the casual menace of someone accustomed to immediate compliance. Daniel remained hidden, accessing the laboratory's defensive systems through a secondary terminal. The distribution protocol needed another 3 minutes to complete. Spread out and find them. Anderson's command sent the tactical team moving deeper into the laboratory. The woman and child are secondary objectives. Secure the protector technology. Daniel activated the laboratory's internal defense system, not lethal weapons, but a series of countermeasures designed to confuse and delay. The overhead lights suddenly flashed in a disorienting strobe pattern as emergency sirens wailed at disorienting frequencies. In the chaos, Daniel slipped from his hiding place toward the tunnel entrance. He'd nearly reached it when a voice cut through the cacophony. "Dr. Hayes, I'd recognize that tactical thinking anywhere." Anderson stood silhouetted against the laboratory's emergency lights, his posture relaxed despite the chaos surrounding them. "You always did prefer non-lethal solutions, even when lethal would be more efficient." Daniel froze, calculating distances and angles. Anderson knew him, not just from surveillance, but personally. Another fragment of his suppressed memories clicked into place. Anderson had been his superior at Meridian, overseeing the Protector project from the shadows. "You're finally remembering." "Good." Anderson took a measured step forward. "The memory suppression was never meant to be permanent, just long enough for us to complete the weaponized version without ethical interference from you and your wife." Daniel's jaw clenched at the casual mention of Rebecca. "You murdered her." Anderson sighed as if disappointed by an underperforming employee. "She forced our hand by contacting Miller. A targeted intervention was cleaner than a public elimination. Your son would have grown up believing his mother died of natural causes, preserving his potential utility to the project." Rage burned through Daniel's veins, but military discipline kept him focused on survival. The distribution system needed just 90 more seconds. Behind him, the tunnel offered escape. Ahead, the man responsible for destroying his family. "Where is Dr. Miller's daughter?" Anderson glanced toward the spherical chamber, where the energy field still pulsed with stable luminescence. "And what have you done with my technology, not yours?" "Never yours." Daniel edged closer to the emergency protocol station. "This technology was designed to protect, not destroy." A cruel smile touched Anderson's lips. Protection, destruction, merely different applications of the same fundamental principles, much like parenthood. The implied threat to Noah ignited something primal in Daniel. He lunged toward the emergency console, slapping his palm against the final failsafe, a localized electromagnetic pulse designed to disable all electronics within the laboratory. The lights died instantly. In the sudden darkness, Daniel heard Anderson's amused voice. "Really, Dr. Hayes, you think we wouldn't prepare for such obvious countermeasures?" A focused beam of light cut through the darkness as Anderson activated a specialized flashlight. The distribution system, the computers, everything had gone dark before completion. The protocol had failed. The tactical team regrouped around Anderson, their night vision equipment giving them a decisive advantage. Daniel backed toward the tunnel entrance, aware that his window for escape was closing rapidly. A deafening explosion rocked the laboratory as a section of the ceiling collapsed. Through the falling debris emerged a sight Daniel never expected: Olivia wielding what appeared to be a modified weapon from her father's arsenal. "Go." Her voice cut through the chaos as she fired again, targeting the structural supports rather than the personnel. The ceiling's coming down. Daniel didn't hesitate, diving into the tunnel as massive chunks of concrete and steel began raining down. Olivia followed seconds later, sealing the entrance with a final blast that triggered a cascading structural failure. The sounds of destruction faded as they sprinted through the narrow passage, illuminated only by emergency lighting strips along the floor. 50 yards ahead, Noah waited exactly where Olivia had told him to stay, clutching his backpack with white-knuckled determination. "Did we win?" Noah's voice echoed in the concrete tunnel. "Not yet, but we've escaped the first round." Daniel lifted his son, continuing forward at a rapid pace. "We need to keep moving." The tunnel stretched before them, curving gently through the desert's subterranean landscape. Olivia took point, her familiarity with the route allowing them to maintain a steady pace despite the minimal lighting. Anderson survived. He'll have a secondary team sealing the tunnel exits. Olivia's assessment was clinical, devoid of panic. "We need to reach the midway point where we can access alternate routes." Daniel's mind raced, processing their options while assessing Noah's condition. His son's fever had broken completely, but the stress and exertion were taking their toll on his small frame. After 20 minutes of rapid movement, they reached a junction where the maintenance tunnel intersected with what appeared to be a natural cave system, expanded and reinforced with modern materials. "My father mapped these caves extensively." Olivia activated a holographic display on her watch showing their position relative to the surface. 3 possible exit points, all with emergency transportation options. A distant rumble echoed through the tunnels. Controlled detonations. The strike team was following using explosives to clear the collapsed sections. They're moving faster than I anticipated. Olivia's voice remained calm, but her eyes betrayed concern. We need to split up. Daniel shook his head emphatically. Absolutely not. Noah, suddenly alert, pointed to a small side passage barely visible in the dim light. What about there? It smells different. Both adults turned their attention to the narrow opening. Olivia consulted her map, brow furrowing in concentration. That's not on any of my father's charts. Daniel approached the passage, feeling a faint breeze that suggested it connected to the surface. Noah's right. The air composition is different, fresher. Olivia hesitated, weighing unknown risks against their dwindling options. The marked exits will be Anderson's primary targets. Another distant explosion closer this time made the decision for them. Daniel led the way into the unmarked passage, which quickly narrowed to a crawl space that would have been impassable for larger adults. Noah navigated it easily while Daniel and Olivia were forced to remove their backpacks and push them ahead. The passage eventually opened into a larger chamber with multiple natural chimneys extending upward. Moonlight filtered down through one of them, illuminating ancient petroglyphs on the walls. Evidence this cave system had been used by humans long before William Miller discovered it. Can we climb out? Daniel examined the nearest chimney, estimating its diameter and handholds. Olivia shook her head, pointing to a narrow crack in the chamber's far wall. There's stronger airflow from that direction. These vertical shafts are likely just ventilation for a larger system. Noah had already moved to the crack, his small frame allowing him to peer through. I see lights, like stars, but moving. Daniel joined his son, angling to glimpse what Noah had spotted. Not stars, headlights, a road maybe half a mile from their position. The crack was barely wide enough for an adult to squeeze through sideways. Olivia went first, followed by Noah, with Daniel bringing up the rear. The passage twisted and turned, gradually widening, until they emerged into a shallow ravine beneath a desert sky brilliant with stars. Daniel oriented himself, quickly identifying their position relative to the gas station by the distant glow of emergency vehicles on the horizon. They traveled northeast away from the main road. Olivia consulted her watch, which now displayed GPS coordinates. Emergency vehicle cache should be 200 yards in that direction. She pointed toward a cluster of boulders silhouetted against the starlight. They moved carefully across the open terrain, hyper-aware of potential surveillance. The cache, when they reached it, was disguised as a natural rock formation, but opened to Olivia's biometric scan to reveal an all-terrain vehicle with supplies and emergency equipment. This can get us to the highway. Olivia quickly inspected the vehicle's systems. From there, we have multiple options to disappear. Daniel loaded their backpacks while Noah climbed into the passenger compartment, exhaustion finally overtaking his adrenaline. As they prepared to depart, a series of bright flashes illuminated the horizon where the gas station stood. The self-destruct sequence. Olivia's voice held a complex mixture of emotions. My father built this facility over decades. Now it's gone. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, offering silent support. The physical structure is destroyed, but we saved the most important components. Your father's legacy survives through you. The desert night enveloped them as they navigated away from the destruction, the all-terrain vehicle's specialized systems masking its heat signature and noise. Noah dozed against Daniel's side while Olivia focused on driving, following routes only she knew. After an hour of careful progress, they reached a secondary road that eventually connected to Interstate 25. Olivia guided the vehicle into a concealed ravine just before the highway interchange. We need to switch transportation. This vehicle is too distinctive. She pointed toward a small storage facility visible from their position. My father maintains several anonymous storage units throughout the Southwest. There's a civilian vehicle waiting there. The storage facility appeared abandoned, its weathered sign advertising desert self-storage, barely visible in the pre-dawn light. Olivia approached the keypad at the entrance gate, entering a code that opened not just the gate but an entire false wall, revealing a hidden garage beyond. Inside sat a nondescript SUV with tinted windows and Colorado plates. Daniel transferred their essential equipment, while Olivia activated a series of devices that would erase any evidence of their presence. Noah stirred as Daniel settled him into the SUV's back seat. Where are we going now? Somewhere safe, buddy. Daniel secured the seatbelt around his son's small frame. Remember Aunt Jennifer in Colorado? We're going to visit her for a little while. The mention of his aunt brought a sleepy smile to Noah's face. He had always enjoyed visits to Jennifer's mountain home outside Denver, where wildlife and open spaces provided endless exploration opportunities. As they pulled onto the interstate heading north, Daniel finally had a moment to process everything that had happened. The revelation about Rebecca's murder, the technology they'd nearly completed, Anderson's casual cruelty, and the resources at his disposal. "We need to assume Division has identified your sister." Olivia's words cut through his thoughts. "They'll have surveillance on any known associates." Daniel nodded grimly. He'd already considered this. Jennifer isn't our final destination. She's a misdirection. Noah had drifted back to sleep, allowing them to speak more freely. Daniel outlined his actual plan, a series of transfers and transportation changes that would eventually lead them to a remote cabin in northern Michigan, owned by a former Navy colleague who had gone off-grid years ago. "Anderson won't stop hunting us." Olivia's gaze remained fixed on the highway stretching before them. "Not until he has the technology or we're eliminated." Daniel opened his backpack, extracting the prototype field generator they'd rescued from the laboratory. "The stabilization algorithm. Did you complete the upload before the EMP?" Olivia's expression tightened. "Partially. I've got about 80% of the completed code. Without the full version, we'll have to reconstruct it." Daniel glanced at Noah's sleeping form. "My son understood something about the field dynamics that neither of us grasped intuitively. With his perspective and our technical knowledge, we can rebuild it." The sunrise painted the eastern sky in brilliant oranges and pinks as they continued northward. They stopped only once during the 12-hour drive to Colorado, changing vehicles again at another of William Miller's anonymous storage facilities outside Pueblo. Jennifer Hayes lived in a modernized cabin near Evergreen, with sweeping views of the Rocky Mountains and enough land to ensure privacy from neighbors. As they approached the final turnoff to her property, Daniel activated a burner phone. "Jen, it's me." His voice remained steady despite the circumstances. "Remember our contingency discussion? It's active. Arrival in 30 minutes. Jennifer had served as an intelligence analyst during her own military career and understood the protocols for emergency situations. "No questions, just confirmation. Roger that. Perimeter secure. Kitchen stocked." The private road leading to Jennifer's home wound through dense pine forest, providing natural concealment from aerial surveillance. As they crested the final hill, her cabin came into view. A sophisticated blend of traditional architecture and modern security disguised as rustic charm. Jennifer awaited them on the covered porch, her posture reflecting her military background despite her casual clothing. Her expression remained neutral as they exited the vehicle, but her eyes widened slightly at Olivia's presence, an unexpected variable in whatever scenario she had imagined. Introductions were brief and practical as Jennifer ushered them inside, where she had prepared a secure communication station and basic medical supplies. Noah immediately gravitated toward the large picture window overlooking the forested valley, his natural resilience allowing him to transition from danger to wonder in moments. While Noah explored the cabin under Jennifer's watchful eye, Daniel and Olivia established a secure perimeter and communication protocols. Within hours, they had transformed a guest bedroom into an improvised laboratory using equipment Jennifer had acquired through her own connections. That evening, after Noah had fallen asleep in the loft bedroom, Daniel finally shared the complete story with his sister. Jennifer absorbed the information with the analytical focus that had made her exceptional in military intelligence. Division isn't officially sanctioned. Her assessment was precise. Anderson's operating beyond oversight, which means their traditional channels can't help us. Daniel spread William Miller's files across the kitchen table, physical documents they had brought from the desert facility. "There's evidence here connecting Anderson to illegal weapons sales to foreign entities. If we can get this to the right people." Jennifer's expression remained skeptical. "People like Anderson insulate themselves with layers of deniability. We need more than paper trails." Olivia, who had been meticulously reassembling the prototype field generator, looked up from her work. "My father documented everything. Video recordings, financial transactions, communications. It's all encoded in distributed storage systems that would activate with the full distribution protocol, which failed when the EMP knocked out the laboratory systems." Daniel's frustration was evident. "We have fragments of evidence, but not the comprehensive package that would force official action." The three adults fell silent, each calculating potential moves in this dangerous chess match. Jennifer eventually broke the silence, her tactical mind having formulated a strategy. You need to complete the technology first. Her finger traced imaginary connections between the documents. Not to use it, but because it's your strongest bargaining chip. Once functional, you can approach specific oversight committees with both the technology and the evidence as a package. Daniel considered his sister's suggestion, recognizing the strategic logic while acknowledging the technical challenges. Completing the stabilization algorithm would require time and resources they might not have. Olivia had already returned to the prototype, her dedication to her father's legacy driving her forward despite exhaustion. Daniel joined her, examining the partial code they'd salvaged. What if we approach it differently? His mind returned to Noah's bubble analogy. Instead of trying to force stability through external constraints, what if the field could adapt to disruptions internally? Olivia's fingers paused over the keyboard as she considered. Adaptive resonance rather than rigid parameters. It could work, but we'd need to completely redesign the feedback mechanisms. Their technical discussion continued late into the night, fueled by determination and the shared understanding that their lives depended on success. Jennifer maintained perimeter security, her military training evident in her methodical surveillance patterns. Dawn found Daniel at the kitchen table, surrounded by handwritten equations and simulation results. The concept Noah had intuited was mathematically sound, but implementing it required computational resources they didn't have. We need more processing power. Daniel rubbed his eyes, staring at the limitations of their improvised setup. Without it, the simulations will take weeks. Jennifer, who had been monitoring communications channels throughout the night, joined him at the table. I might have a solution, not ideal from a security standpoint, but functional. She outlined a contact at the University of Colorado, a former intelligence colleague now working in quantum computing research. Someone who might provide access to the necessary resources without asking too many questions. The risk assessment was straightforward. Remaining in one location for too long increased their vulnerability, but without computational resources, they couldn't complete the algorithm. After discussing all options, they decided Daniel would make the journey to Boulder, while Olivia remained with Noah at the cabin. Jennifer prepared a new identity package for Daniel, documentation that would withstand cursory examination and digital credentials that matched university visitor protocols. The drive to Boulder took just over an hour each mile, increasing Daniel's hypervigilance as he scanned for surveillance or pursuit. The university campus sprawled across the Boulder foothills, its mixture of historic and modern buildings creating natural camouflage for his activities. Jennifer's contact, Dr. Eleanor Chen, met him in an underground parking structure rather than her office, a precaution that confirmed she understood the sensitive nature of their arrangement. Dr. Chen led Daniel through service corridors to a secured laboratory in the physics building's basement. No questions about the data or simulations he needed to run, just practical parameters. You have 6 hours. The systems will automatically purge all activity afterward. The quantum computing array occupied a climate-controlled chamber, its processing capabilities exponentially greater than their improvised setup at the cabin. Daniel worked methodically, implementing the adaptive resonance algorithms and running simulations that would have taken weeks to complete on conventional systems. 5 hours into his allocated time, the simulations converged on a solution that matched their theoretical model. The adaptive field stabilization would work, not through brute force control, but through distributed intelligence within the field itself. The algorithm was elegant in its simplicity, once fully realized, self-correcting, adaptive resilient. Daniel transferred the completed code to a specialized storage device, then initiated the purge protocols himself rather than waiting for the automatic system. As he prepared to leave, Dr. Chen appeared with a thumb drive of her own. Thought you might find this interesting. Her casual tone belied the intensity in her eyes. Some anomalous defense contract funding patterns I've been tracking as a hobby. Daniel accepted the drive without comment, understanding the unspoken message. Chen had her own concerns about division's activities and was providing additional evidence that might prove useful. The return journey to Evergreen proceeded without incident, but as Daniel approached the final turnoff to Jennifer's property, instinct made him continue past parking, instead at a public trailhead half a mile away. He approached the cabin on foot through the forest, a precaution that proved prescient when he spotted an unmarked vehicle parked on the service road that ran behind Jennifer's property. Daniel circled the perimeter using natural cover to assess the situation. The cabin appeared undisturbed, but the unknown vehicle suggested surveillance. He activated the emergency signal on his secure phone, 3 short vibrations that would alert Jennifer to potential compromise. The response came seconds later, 4 vibrations. Acknowledged but situation controlled. Daniel maintained his position, waiting for additional information or the predetermined extraction signal. 20 minutes later, Jennifer emerged from a side trail, her casual hiking outfit concealing a sidearm. False alarm but instructive. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Local sheriff doing a property check. I'm on their vacation watch list. Despite the benign explanation, the incident highlighted their vulnerability. As they returned to the cabin, Daniel briefed Jennifer and Olivia on his successful algorithm development while emphasizing the need to accelerate their timeline. Noah, who had spent the day helping Olivia with basic circuit assembly, demonstrated surprising technical intuition for a 5-year-old. His natural ability to visualize complex systems manifested in crayon drawings that sometimes captured essential relationships the adults had overlooked. One such drawing now covered the refrigerator door, the first personal touch in a space previously left deliberately bare. It showed 4 figures holding hands around a glowing circle with smaller circles inside it, like bubbles. When Daniel asked about it, Noah's explanation was matter-of-fact. That's us fixing the bubbles so the bad men can't pop them. That night, as Noah slept, the 3 adults gathered around the kitchen table to formulate their next steps. The algorithm was complete, and the prototype generator was nearly reassembled. Soon they would have a functioning demonstration of the technology, their bargaining chip against division. Jennifer spread a map across the table, indicating potential secure routes to Washington, D.C. We need to identify the right oversight committee, someone with enough authority to act but not so connected that Anderson has influence. Olivia suggested several possibilities based on her father's contingency plans, while Daniel considered their options through the lens of his military and defense industry experience. By midnight, they had identified 3 potential officials who might provide the necessary combination of authority and independence. As they finalized their strategy, a perimeter alarm triggered, subtle enough not to wake Noah but unmistakable to the 3 trained adults. Jennifer moved immediately to the security monitors, scanning all approaches to the property. 3 teams. Professional configuration. Her assessment was clipped and precise, not local law enforcement. Daniel and Olivia implemented their emergency protocol, gathering essential equipment, while Jennifer activated countermeasures designed to delay rather than engage. Noah remained asleep, unaware of the danger closing in around them. The tactical approach suggested division had located them through electronic surveillance rather than human intelligence. The teams maintained communication discipline, but their movement patterns revealed military training. We have approximately 4 minutes before they reach the perimeter sensors. Jennifer's voice remained steady as she initiated the cabin's defense systems. Non-lethal but effective. Can you get the prototype operational? Olivia was already making final connections on the field generator, her fingers moving with practiced precision despite the pressure. It's not fully calibrated, but the core functionality should work. Daniel woke Noah with gentle efficiency, helping him into prepositioned protective clothing while explaining the situation in terms a 5-year-old could process without panic. Remember our practice drills. We need to move quickly and quietly, just like we practiced. Noah nodded solemnly, following Daniel's instructions with the focused attention that continued to surprise adults who underestimated children's capacity in crisis situations. The prototype hummed to life as Olivia completed the final connections, its internal components generating a miniature version of the laboratory's energy field. Daniel activated the newly completed stabilization algorithm, watching as the field shifted from unstable flickering to a steady pearlescent glow. Jennifer had prepared an escape route through a concealed basement access that connected to a natural cave system beneath the property, another reason she'd chosen this particular location years ago. As they descended into the hidden passage, the first perimeter sensors triggered, initiating a cascading security response designed to confuse rather than harm the approaching teams. Lights, sounds, and environmental systems created a disorienting environment while recording tactical movements for later identification. The cave system extended nearly a quarter-mile before emerging in a natural ravine where Jennifer had concealed an emergency vehicle. Daniel secured Noah in the specialized child restraint while Olivia and Jennifer transferred their essential equipment. The prototype field generator occupied the vehicle's secured cargo compartment, its stable operation a testament to the algorithm's effectiveness. As they prepared to depart, Jennifer handed Daniel a final package: contingency identification and resources. Her eyes conveyed what words couldn't under the circumstances. Separate vehicles 2 miles east. I'll create a diversion. Daniel embraced his sister briefly, understanding she was providing them crucial escape time by remaining behind. Be safe. We'll make this right. Jennifer's smile held grim determination. Find the right people. Finish this. As their vehicle moved silently through the ravine, using specialized electric drive systems, Daniel heard the first indications of Jennifer's diversion, a series of controlled detonations that would simulate a much larger confrontation while concealing the actual escape route. Noah watched the pyrotechnic display through the reinforced rear window, his expression solemn beyond his years. Are they hurting Aunt Jennifer? Olivia answered before Daniel could formulate a response. Your aunt is very smart and very brave. Those explosions are just loud noises to confuse the bad people. She's already somewhere safe. The confidence in her voice seemed to reassure Noah, who returned his attention to the tablet, where he'd been drawing increasingly sophisticated versions of the field generator's internal components. They reached the secondary vehicles, nondescript sedans with different state registrations, and transferred to separate cars as Jennifer had arranged. The tactical logic was sound. 2 targets were harder to track than one, and if either were compromised, the other might still succeed. Daniel secured the prototype and essential documentation in his vehicle, while Olivia took the completed algorithm and backup systems. Noah would remain with Daniel. Separating him from his father would create psychological trauma that couldn't be justified under current threat assessments. The rendezvous point was established Arlington National Cemetery 3 days hence, at the memorial bench dedicated to a mutual acquaintance from Jennifer's intelligence career. Public enough for safety, significant enough to be unambiguous. As they prepared to separate, Olivia knelt to Noah's eye level. You've been very brave. Your bubble idea saved us all. Noah considered this with characteristic seriousness before responding. The bubbles just needed someone to listen to them. They knew how to fix themselves. The profound simplicity of his statement hung in the pre-dawn air as Olivia straightened, meeting Daniel's gaze with an intensity that transcended their professional connection. I'll see you in Arlington. Her voice carried determination rather than doubt. All 3 of us will finish this together. Daniel watched her vehicle disappear around the mountain curve before securing Noah in his booster seat and initiating their own journey eastward. The prototype hummed softly in its shielded case, its stable operation a tangible reminder of what they'd accomplished against overwhelming odds. As the Colorado Rockies receded in their rearview mirror, Daniel mapped their route toward Washington, D.C., calculating contingencies and alternate approaches. The evidence they carried, both technological and documentary, might be enough to expose Division's illegal operations and bring Anderson to justice. Noah's voice interrupted his tactical planning, the question catching Daniel off guard despite its inevitability. Dad, was Mom killed by the bad men? Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel as he searched for an appropriate response for a 5-year-old who had already witnessed more violence and danger than any child should endure. Yes, his voice emerged steadier than he expected, but she was trying to protect people, just like we are now. Noah absorbed this confirmation with the peculiar stillness he exhibited when processing complex information. After a long silence, he offered a response that compressed Daniel's chest with its emotional weight. Then we need to finish what she started, so she can see us do it from heaven. The miles unfolded beneath their wheels as they crossed state lines, changing vehicles twice more, using Jennifer's prepared resources. Throughout the long drive, Noah maintained a resilience that continually astonished Daniel, asking insightful questions about the technology they were protecting, drawing increasingly accurate schematics of the field generator's components, and occasionally offering observations about their surroundings that revealed situational awareness beyond his years. They were passing through western Kansas when Daniel's secure phone vibrated with an incoming message, a rare breach of communication discipline that signaled urgent development. The message contained only coordinates and a timestamp, a location in eastern Missouri 12 hours hence. A course correction became necessary. Daniel calculated the adjusted route, ensuring they would reach the new rendezvous point with sufficient margin for security protocols. The change suggested Olivia had encountered complications, perhaps surveillance or direct threat, requiring adaptation. Noah noticed a shift in their heading, his observation casual but accurate. We're going south now instead of east. Daniel nodded, impressed by his son's navigational awareness. Ms. Miller needs our help. We're going to meet her sooner than we planned. The Missouri rendezvous point turned out to be an abandoned agricultural research station, its weathered buildings providing cover from satellite surveillance while offering multiple approach and escape routes. Daniel conducted careful counter-surveillance measures before bringing their vehicle onto the property, confirming the location was secure. Olivia's designated vehicle wasn't present, but evidence of recent activity suggested she had been there within the past few hours. Daniel secured Noah in the main building's office area, establishing a defensive perimeter while they waited. Night had fallen when Olivia finally arrived, not in her assigned vehicle, but on foot, emerging from the surrounding forest with tactical movement patterns that spoke of military training beyond what Daniel had observed previously. Division intercepted me in eastern Colorado. Her briefing was succinct as she accepted water from Daniel's supplies. I evaded, but they've escalated resources. They're treating this as a national security priority. Daniel processed this information, reassessing their strategy in light of increased opposition. The acceleration suggested Anderson felt genuine urgency, perhaps pressure from above or competition from rival interests. What about our evidence package? He gestured toward the specialized storage devices Olivia had been transporting. She extracted a waterproof case from her backpack, confirming the critical materials remained secure. I had to abandon the vehicle and some non-essential equipment, but everything crucial is intact. Noah, who had been quietly observing their reunion, approached with the solemnity that emerged during significant moments. Did the bubbles help you escape? Olivia's expression softened as she knelt to his level. They did. When the bad men tried to catch me, I used a small version of our device to disable their communications. Just like you said, the bubbles protected themselves. This simplified explanation satisfied Noah, who returned to his drawing tablet with renewed focus, adding details to his schematic that reflected surprising understanding of the field generator's operational principles. As Noah worked, Daniel and Olivia conferred on their adjusted strategy. The increased division activity suggested their window for approaching official channels was narrowing. They needed to accelerate their timeline while maintaining sufficient security. My contact at the Justice Department Oversight Committee can meet us in D.C. the day after tomorrow. Olivia checked her secure communications device. But we'll need the functioning prototype as demonstration. Daniel gestured toward the shielded case containing the field generator. It's operational but limited in range and duration. Without proper power management systems, we can't sustain the field beyond 20 minutes. Enough for proof of concept. Olivia's technical assessment was quick and confident. Combined with my father's documentation and the evidence from Dr. Chen, it should create sufficient leverage for official action. They spent the night at the abandoned research station, taking alternating watch shifts while refining their approach strategy. By morning, they had established a comprehensive plan that accounted for division's increased resources while maximizing their own limited advantages. As they prepared to continue eastward, Daniel found Noah standing by the window watching the sunrise with uncharacteristic stillness. His son's next words carried a perceptiveness that repeatedly defied conventional developmental expectations. The bubbles are getting stronger. I can feel them. Daniel knelt beside him, following his gaze toward the horizon where golden light spread across the landscape. What do you mean, buddy? Noah placed his small hand on the case containing the prototype. They're learning, adapting. That's why the bad men are scared. The bubbles don't just protect, they remember. Olivia had approached, silently catching Noah's statement. Her expression reflected both wonder and scientific curiosity. The adaptive algorithm, it's continuing to evolve based on environmental inputs. Daniel opened the monitoring interface, confirming Noah's intuitive assessment. The stabilization patterns had indeed self-modified, creating more efficient energy distribution without external programming. The technology wasn't just stable, it was learning. The prototype's evolution confirmed what Daniel had suspected since Noah's first observation about the bubbles. This technology wasn't merely a shield, but potentially a new form of intelligence, adapting and learning from its environment. The implications extended far beyond defensive applications, which explained Division's relentless pursuit. We need to document this development. Olivia was already connecting diagnostic equipment to the prototype, capturing data on its autonomous modifications. If the algorithm is truly self-improving, we have an entirely new classification of technology. Daniel watched his son interacting with the field generator's interface. Noah's intuitive understanding once again outpacing adult comprehension. The boy's fingers traced patterns on the monitoring tablet that somehow correlated with fluctuations in the field stability. They're talking to each other. Noah's statement wasn't childish personification, but precise observation. The bubbles remember what works and forget what doesn't. Like how I learned math. The agricultural research station provided temporary shelter, but satellite coverage meant division would eventually identify their location. By mid-morning, they had transferred essential equipment to a new vehicle Jennifer had arranged through her network, an ambulance decommissioned from federal service, but still bearing official markings that would facilitate unquestioned movement across state lines. Noah found the ambulance's emergency features fascinating, examining the specialized equipment with the methodical attention he applied to all mechanical systems. Daniel used this interest as a natural cover story if they encountered checkpoints, a father taking his technologically inclined son to visit medical facilities for career day events. Olivia established herself in the ambulance's patient compartment, converting it into a mobile laboratory where she could monitor the prototype's ongoing evolution. The vehicle's medical power systems provided stable current for their equipment, eliminating one vulnerability in their previous setup. As they crossed into Illinois, Daniel's secure communications device vibrated with an encrypted message from Jennifer. The brief text contained only 5 words: Anderson promoted, Pentagon involvement confirmed. The implications were severe. Anderson's elevation suggested division was receiving higher authorization for their pursuit, possibly gaining access to military assets beyond their previous operational parameters. Olivia processed this development with the strategic calm Daniel had come to respect. If Anderson has Pentagon backing our Justice Department, contact may be insufficient. We need someone with equivalent authority. Their contingency planning had already identified secondary channels if their primary approach failed. Daniel navigated toward the southern suburbs of Chicago, where an unscheduled stop would connect them with another of Jennifer's contacts, a retired naval intelligence officer who maintained connections to congressional oversight committees. The meeting occurred in the controlled chaos of a regional shopping mall food court, the public setting providing security through anonymity. Commander Ellis Thornton, his military bearing disguised beneath casual retirement attire, assessed their evidence with professional detachment. Anderson's using the Joint Special Operations Command as cover for division activities. Thornton's voice remained conversational despite the explosive content of his statement. 4 specialized teams deployed domestically without proper authorization. That alone violates a dozen federal statutes. Daniel provided a technical overview of the Protector technology without revealing its recent autonomous evolution, emphasizing its defensive applications while highlighting division's attempts to weaponize it. Thornton absorbed the information methodically, his eyes occasionally tracking the mall's security patterns with habitual vigilance. Your Justice Department contact is compromised. Anderson's people placed him under surveillance yesterday. This confirmation of their suspicions necessitated yet another strategy adjustment. Thornton offered an alternative approach, a direct meeting with the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who was coincidentally attending a fundraising event in Washington the following evening. It's invitation only, heavy security. Thornton studied Olivia's features with professional assessment. But we can create credentials for Ms. Miller as a donor representative. The prototype and documentation stay secured until the actual meeting. Noah, who had been quietly drawing on his tablet throughout the adult conversation, suddenly tugged at Daniel's sleeve with unusual urgency. His voice dropped to a whisper only his father could hear. The man by the pretzel shop is watching us too hard. Daniel maintained his casual posture while shifting his position to observe the indicated location. A well-dressed man in his 30s was indeed paying their group excessive attention while maintaining the practiced nonchalance of surveillance professionals. Thornton had noticed as well his retirement, evidently having done nothing to dull his counterintelligence instincts. Seems our timeline just accelerated. Mall security cameras activated remote viewing protocols 5 minutes ago. Olivia was already implementing their compromised contingency, transferring essential data to specialized storage devices while preparing to separate their high-value assets. Noah understood the unspoken tension, packing his tablet and personal items with the quiet efficiency that continued to surprise everyone but his father. The exit strategy unfolded with practiced precision, Thornton creating a minor distraction at a neighboring kiosk while Daniel, Olivia, and Noah departed through service corridors Thornton had identified during his pre-meeting security assessment. They emerged into the parking structure at a maintenance exit, avoiding the main concourse where facial recognition systems would be concentrated. The ambulance waited 3 levels down its official markings, still providing the best available cover. Division's surveillance team responded more quickly than anticipated. As Daniel navigated out of the parking structure, 2 unmarked vehicles initiated pursuit patterns, maintaining distance while coordinating through unseen communications. Olivia monitored their followers through specialized equipment, confirming what tactical driving had already suggested. 4-man teams in each vehicle, standard division deployment for high-value asset recovery. Daniel's military training provided advanced evasive driving techniques, but the ambulance's size limited their maneuverability in dense urban traffic. They needed an alternative approach rather than direct evasion. The prototype. Olivia's suggestion was immediate and logical. If we can generate a localized field, it could disrupt their vehicle electronics temporarily. The risk assessment was straightforward. Using the technology would confirm its functionality to division, but might provide the critical advantage needed to escape immediate pursuit. Daniel made the decision based on operational necessity rather than strategic preference. Noah was already adjusting the prototype's parameters, his small fingers manipulating the interface with intuitive understanding that outpaced explicit knowledge. The field needs to be spiky, not smooth. He demonstrated with hand gestures that somehow translated to precise technical adjustments on the control panel. Olivia implemented Noah's conceptual guidance, reconfiguring the field generator to project a narrowband disruption, specifically targeting vehicle control systems. The modification required redirecting power from the ambulance's emergency systems, temporarily disabling their lights and specialized equipment. The pursuing vehicles closed distance as Daniel navigated toward the interstate on-ramp, their tactical coordination suggesting they were preparing for a vehicle containment maneuver. With limited options remaining, Daniel gave the authorization, now. Olivia activated the modified field generator. The effect was immediately visible as both pursuit vehicles suddenly lost power, their momentum carrying them forward while their engines and electronics temporarily failed. The disruption lasted only 15 seconds, enough time for Daniel to accelerate onto the highway and establish critical distance. The prototype automatically adjusted its parameters after the activation, the self-learning algorithm incorporating performance data from the field deployment. Noah observed this process with fascination, his commentary revealing understanding beyond his years. It remembers what worked best. It's saving the pattern for next time. Daniel maintained their highway speed while implementing secondary evasion protocols, changing routes, adjusting their electronic signature, and activating counter-surveillance measures Jennifer had installed in the vehicle. Thornton's secure message arrived 30 minutes later. Division mobilizing additional assets. Aerial surveillance probable. Proceed to contingency location Delta. Location Delta represented a significant deviation from their planned approach to Washington. Instead of proceeding directly to the capital, they would divert to a secure facility in rural Pennsylvania, where Thornton maintained a private research operation outside official channels. The journey required careful navigation through secondary roads to avoid predictable interstate patterns that would facilitate aerial tracking. Noah remained remarkably calm throughout the extended drive, alternating between sleep and periods of intense focus on the prototype's monitoring systems. By nightfall, they had reached the outskirts of Pittsburgh, where urban density provided natural concealment from overhead surveillance. Daniel navigated to a predetermined equipment exchange point, an independent ambulance service whose owner had previously worked with Jennifer on classified operations. The exchange proceeded with professional efficiency, transferring their essential equipment to a civilian medical transport vehicle with private service markings. The new vehicle offered less official protection, but provided better cover for their approach to Thornton's facility. Olivia used the transition time to analyze data from the prototype's field deployment, her expression reflecting growing scientific excitement despite their precarious situation. The adaptive algorithm didn't just disrupt the pursuit vehicles. It analyzed their specific electronic signatures and created a targeted response. It's learning at an accelerated rate. Daniel processed this information through both tactical and ethical frameworks. The technology's evolution raised critical questions about control and application, questions that needed addressing before they proceeded with any official disclosure. Noah had fallen asleep during the vehicle transition, his small body finally surrendering to exhaustion after maintaining remarkable vigilance throughout their journey. Daniel carried him to the new vehicle, noting how his son's arms instinctively tightened around the tablet containing his field generator schematics even in sleep. As they approached Thornton's facility shortly after midnight, enhanced security protocols required authentication through multiple checkpoints. The compound itself was disguised as an agricultural research center, its true purpose concealed beneath innocent-appearing structures and extensive underground facilities. Thornton arrived an hour after they had settled into the secure residential section, bringing updated intelligence on Division's response to their evasion. They've classified you as a national security threat. His assessment was clinical rather than alarming. Anderson secured presidential authorization for expanded domestic operations under counterterrorism provisions. The escalation confirmed their suspicions about Division's extraordinary influence within the government. Anderson had effectively removed normal constraints on domestic military operations, creating legal cover for actions that would otherwise constitute clear violations of federal law. We need to accelerate our approach to the Senate committee. Daniel outlined the adjusted timeline while Olivia prepared the prototype and documentation for presentation. The technology's autonomous evolution added urgency to their situation, both for securing proper oversight and preventing weaponization. Noah awakened during their strategic discussion, immediately sensing the increased tension despite adults' efforts to maintain calm facades. The bubbles are worried. His simple statement carried complex implications they were still decoding. They can feel the bad people getting closer. Thornton, who had initially regarded Noah's contributions with polite indulgence, now studied the boy with increasing interest. The child's consistent ability to interpret the field generator's status without instrumentation suggested a connection none of them fully understood. Olivia conducted a series of tests with Noah's participation, documenting his intuitive understanding of field adjustments that engineering principles would normally require advanced mathematics to calculate. The results confirmed what had been increasingly apparent. Noah wasn't merely making lucky guesses, but was somehow perceiving the field's properties directly. He's functioning as a human interface. Olivia's scientific detachment temporarily overcame her personal caution. The technology is communicating with him through mechanisms we haven't identified. This development added another dimension to their already complex situation. If Noah's connection to the technology was genuine, rather than coincidental, his protection became even more critical. Division would undoubtedly recognize his value if they observed the interaction. Thornton implemented enhanced security around the compound while finalizing their approach to the Senate Intelligence Committee chair. The revised plan would bypass normal channels entirely, using Thornton's personal relationship with the senator to secure a private meeting outside the fundraising event's public setting. As preparations continued through the early morning, Daniel found a moment to speak privately with Noah, seeking to understand his son's experience without the clinical framework Olivia necessarily applied. These bubbles you talk about, what do they feel like? Daniel kept his tone conversational, despite the significance of the question. Noah considered this with characteristic thoughtfulness before answering. Like when you put your hand in water, but instead of getting wet, you feel all the places the water wants to go. They're not really bubbles. That's just the easiest way to explain it. This description, while metaphorical, contained insights that aligned with theoretical models of quantum field behavior. Noah was perceiving fundamental properties of the technology that their instruments could measure but not truly interpret. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Jennifer, the first direct contact since their separation in Colorado. The encrypted message contained coordinates, a timestamp, and a critical warning. Anderson accessing Northcom satellite systems. Full spectrum surveillance activated. Countermeasures compromised. The implications were severe. North American Aerospace Defense Command resources represented military-grade surveillance capabilities far beyond Division's previous operational parameters. Their planned approach to Washington was now compromised before initiation. Thornton confirmed Jennifer's assessment through his own channels, adding crucial intelligence. Anderson had personally taken command of the division recovery operation deploying from the Pentagon via military helicopter less than 30 minutes earlier. We've been betrayed. Thornton's conclusion was inescapable, given the intelligence timeline. Someone within my network disclosed your location. The compound's security systems registered perimeter alerts moments later, confirming approach vehicles on multiple access roads. Satellite imagery showed helicopter deployment patterns consistent with specialized military extraction teams. Daniel made the tactical decision, instantly prioritizing Noah's safety above all other considerations. Olivia, take Noah through the emergency tunnel. The contingency rendezvous point remains active. Olivia gathered Noah and essential documentation while Daniel and Thornton prepared a technical deception, creating the appearance that the prototype remained in the compound while actually transferring it to Olivia's possession for evacuation. Noah understood the gravity of the situation without requiring explicit explanation. His solemn compliance reflected emotional maturity beyond his chronological development, helping rather than hindering the emergency protocols. As Olivia and Noah disappeared into the hidden tunnel system, Daniel initialized the prototype's remote tracking system, a precaution they'd implemented after the laboratory destruction. If separated from the device, they could still monitor its status and location through encrypted channels. Thornton activated the compound's non-lethal defense systems, designed to delay rather than harm incoming forces while providing cover for the evacuation. Electronic countermeasures would temporarily disrupt communications and surveillance, creating critical minutes for Olivia and Noah to establish distance. Daniel and Thornton positioned themselves to implement the final deception, creating evidence of attempted prototype destruction that would focus Division's attention on the compound while the actual technology moved to safety. The first breach occurred at the North Perimeter tactical teams, moving with the coordinated precision of Special Forces operators. These weren't Division standard personnel, but military specialists under direct command authorization. Anderson was deploying resources that blurred the lines between intelligence operations and military action. Through surveillance systems, Daniel observed Anderson himself directing operations from a command vehicle at the perimeter. The personal involvement of Division's director confirmed the operation's priority status within the highest levels of government. Thornton initiated the deception sequence, triggering controlled explosions in the laboratory area that simulated desperate attempts to destroy sensitive technology. Daniel simultaneously activated electronic countermeasures that would create data patterns, suggesting catastrophic prototype failure. The tactical teams responded to the laboratory destruction exactly as anticipated, concentrating resources on securing that area while inadvertently creating a secondary extraction opportunity for Daniel and Thornton. The compound's eastern emergency exit remained uncompromised, allowing them to depart as the military teams focused on the laboratory sector. Their extraction vehicle, a maintenance truck with agricultural service markings, was positioned precisely where Thornton's security protocols had specified. As they navigated away from the compound through service roads, satellite imagery confirmed Olivia and Noah had successfully cleared the tunnel system and reached their designated transportation. The prototype's tracking system showed normal operations, suggesting their technical deception had been successful. Anderson will realize the deception within hours. Thornton's assessment was pragmatic rather than pessimistic. We've bought time, not resolution. Daniel received confirmation from Olivia, a single encrypted transmission indicating successful evacuation and adherence to the contingency rendezvous protocol. The message included an unexpected addition. N says bubbles created duplicate signals. A is following false trail. Noah's connection to the technology had apparently manifested in another unexpected capability. The prototype had autonomously generated electronic countermeasures beyond their program parameters, creating sophisticated false signatures that would temporarily misdirect Division's tracking efforts. Thornton directed their vehicle toward Pittsburgh, where his contingency planning had established secure communication channels outside normal intelligence networks. The revised approach would bypass Washington entirely, instead focusing on direct evidence distribution to multiple oversight bodies simultaneously. If we can't reach the Senate committee directly, we distribute the evidence too widely for containment. Thornton outlined the adjusted strategy as Daniel drove. The technology demonstration is secondary now. Documenting Division's domestic military deployment becomes our primary leverage. The maintenance truck provided excellent operational cover, allowing them to reach Pittsburgh without interruption despite the massive surveillance resources Anderson had deployed. Thornton's downtown office maintained the appearance of a routine insurance brokerage while housing sophisticated communication equipment in a shielded sub-basement. Daniel established secure connection with Olivia, confirming their respective positions and coordinating the next phase. The prototype's tracking showed it was functioning normally despite the hasty evacuation and extended transportation. Thornton's digital distribution system was designed specifically for whistleblower protection, a sophisticated network that could transmit authenticated documents to multiple government oversight bodies simultaneously while maintaining source anonymity. They worked through the afternoon preparing the evidence package that documented both the Protector technology's legitimate applications and Division's illegal activities. Thornton's decades in intelligence operations provided crucial context that transformed fragmentary evidence into compelling documentation. As evening approached, they finalized the distribution parameters, identifying 27 separate oversight entities that would receive identical evidence packages. The simultaneous distribution would prevent any single compromised channel from containing the disclosure. Daniel maintained regular communication with Olivia, who had reached the contingency location, a privately owned medical research facility in rural Maryland, whose director had personal connections to Jennifer's intelligence network. Noah's insights continued to prove valuable, his unique perception of the prototype's operations revealing patterns the adults might have overlooked. The technology's autonomous evolution had accelerated during their journey, incorporating new environmental data and developing enhanced adaptive responses. The field doesn't just protect against things it knows. Noah's explanation to Olivia relayed to Daniel contains sophisticated understanding masked by childlike language. It imagines things that might happen and practices stopping them, like when I build block towers and test how they might fall. This description aligned with advanced predictive modeling, a capability they hadn't explicitly programmed into the system, but which had apparently emerged through the self-learning algorithm's evolution. Thornton completed the distribution system's preparation, establishing the precise timing sequence that would ensure simultaneous disclosure across all targeted oversight bodies. The evidence would deploy in exactly 23 minutes, sufficient time for final verification, but not long enough for potential intervention. The proximity sensors activated without warning. 4 armed individuals had entered the building's main floor, their movement patterns indicating tactical training and specific targeting. The building's security feed showed them methodically clearing offices while advancing toward the secure elevator that provided the only access to the sub-basement. How did they find us? Daniel implemented immediate countermeasures securing their digital systems, while Thornton activated the room's defensive protocols. The answer came through their secure communication channel. Olivia's urgent message describing a sophisticated tracking algorithm embedded within the prototype's original programming. It activated during field generation, transmitting location data through specialized frequencies that conventional counter-surveillance couldn't detect. William Miller had incorporated the tracking system as a fail-safe, intending it as protection against technology theft. Division had apparently identified and exploited this feature, using it to locate the prototype despite their electronic countermeasures. The tactical team had reached the elevator access point, implementing breaching equipment against the reinforced doors. Their methodical approach suggested they were securing the facility rather than executing a capture or kill operation. Anderson wanted the evidence contained, not destroyed. We have 18 minutes until distribution activates. Thornton confirmed the automated sequence was properly engaged while securing additional exit options. They can't stop it once initiated. Daniel established final communication with Olivia, confirming the rendezvous coordinates while advising heightened security protocols. If Division had tracked them to Pittsburgh, they would undoubtedly deploy additional resources toward the prototype's current location in Maryland. The tactical team breached the elevator doors, their specialized equipment overcoming security measures designed for corporate rather than military intervention. Daniel and Thornton implemented their final contingency, activating the sub-basement's emergency ventilation system that connected to maintenance tunnels beneath adjacent buildings. The evidence distribution countdown reached 15 minutes as they entered the narrow maintenance passage, its industrial design providing minimal clearance as they navigated toward the secondary exit point. Behind them, the tactical team had reached the sub-basement security door and begun breaching procedures. Thornton led them through the underground network with the confident navigation of someone who had planned this escape route long before its necessity arose. The maintenance tunnels connected 6 separate buildings within the downtown block, creating multiple potential exit points that would complicate pursuit patterns. They emerged through a utility access in an adjacent parking structure, using service corridors to avoid security cameras and potential facial recognition systems. Thornton's contingency planning had positioned an emergency vehicle on the structure's 4th level, a medical transport similar to their previous cover, but registered to a different service company. As they cleared the parking structure, the evidence distribution countdown reached 7 minutes. Division could still theoretically interrupt the transmission by locating and disabling the sub-basement equipment, but the system's redundant security measures made complete containment increasingly unlikely. Daniel established secure communication with Olivia, while Thornton navigated city streets using patterns designed to evade predictive surveillance algorithms. The prototype's status remained stable, but NOAA had reported increased activity in the field behavior, another autonomous adaptation they hadn't anticipated. The bubbles were making themselves invisible. NOAA's description relayed through Olivia suggested the technology had developed some form of signature masking beyond their program parameters. They figured out how they were being tracked and changed their pattern. This evolution represented both breakthrough and concern. The technology was developing capabilities without direct human guidance, responding to perceived threats with increasingly sophisticated countermeasures. The evidence distribution countdown reached 0 as they cleared Pittsburgh's outer suburbs. Thornton's secure tablet confirmed successful transmission to all 27 oversight entities, the identical packages landing simultaneously in secured communication systems across multiple government branches. Anderson's reaction came swiftly. Emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming across national networks, announcing a counterterrorism operation targeting domestic extremists allegedly attempting to deploy electromagnetic weapons of mass disruption against critical infrastructure. The announcement included photos of Daniel, Olivia, and Thornton identifying them as technology terrorists, while conspicuously omitting NOAA's existence. The public narrative established a legitimate framework for the massive resource deployment Anderson had initiated, effectively neutralizing the immediate impact of their evidence distribution. Thornton processed this development with the analytical detachment of a career intelligence professional. Anderson's preempting our disclosure with a national security override. Standard counterintelligence protocol when containment fails. Daniel understood the tactical implications. Any official receiving their evidence package would now view it through the lens of potential terrorist disinformation, rather than whistleblower disclosure. Anderson had effectively created reasonable doubt that would delay official response. The situation demanded further escalation. If government oversight channels were temporarily compromised by Anderson's counter-narrative, they needed alternative approaches with sufficient public credibility to overcome official denials. Thornton proposed a secondary distribution to selected media organizations. Journalists with established reputations for integrity and independent verification. This approach carried significant risks, but offered potential breakthrough if executed properly. The medical transport vehicle provided mobile communication capabilities as they continued toward the Maryland rendezvous point. Daniel coordinated with Olivia while Thornton prepared the media distribution package, a modified version of the oversight evidence with additional context addressing the terrorism allegations. NOAA's connection to the prototype continued producing valuable insights relayed through Olivia's secure communications. The technology had apparently completed its signature masking adaptation, effectively disappearing from Division's specialized tracking systems while maintaining full operational capability. Division's response to losing the prototype signal manifested in expanded search parameters. Military helicopters and drone surveillance deployed across multiple states in patterns suggesting uncertainty rather than precise targeting. The rendezvous location came into view shortly after midnight, a private medical research facility specializing in experimental treatments for rare childhood conditions. The facility's legitimate purpose provided natural cover for NOAA's presence, while its specialized equipment offered resources for prototype analysis. Olivia waited at the designated access point, the exterior loading dock, that bypassed main security checkpoints. Noah remained inside with the prototype monitoring its continued evolution with the fascination he applied to all complex systems. The reunion was brief and practical, security considerations limiting extended interaction as they transferred essential equipment from Thornton's vehicle to the facility's secured research level. Noah's appearance reflected the journey's toll, fatigue evident despite his remarkable resilience, but his eyes brightened upon seeing Daniel. "The bubbles missed you. They work better when we're all together." This observation proved scientifically valid when initial diagnostics confirmed the prototype's performance metrics had measurably improved upon Daniel's arrival. The technology was somehow responding to their specific combination of presence, suggesting recognition parameters beyond conventional programming. Thornton initiated the media distribution, while Daniel and Olivia conducted comprehensive analysis of the prototype's recent evolutionary adaptations. The autonomous developments had significantly advanced the technology's capabilities while raising critical questions about control and limitations. Noah demonstrated his unique connection by adjusting field parameters through intuitive interactions that bypass standard control interfaces. His ability to communicate with the technology through methods the adults couldn't replicate suggested specialized neural patterns that the adaptive algorithm had identified and incorporated. Dr. Eleanor Patel, the facility's research director and Jennifer's long-standing colleague, provided scientific perspective that complemented Olivia's engineering expertise. Her background in neurology offered potential frameworks for understanding Noah's connection to the technology. Neural oscillation patterns in children Noah's age demonstrate natural resonance frequencies that approximate certain quantum field behaviors. Dr. Patel's hypothesis was tentative but compelling. His brain may be processing field data through mechanisms we don't yet understand. Initial media response to Thornton's distribution began appearing on specialized news platforms, cautious reporting and acknowledging the terrorism allegations while raising questions about the evidence contradicting official narratives. Anderson's counter-strategy emerged through official channels. Pentagon spokespeople announcing national security classification of all matters relating to the alleged electromagnetic technology, effectively limiting what mainstream outlets could legally report. This development, while concerning, validated Thornton's analysis of the situation. Anderson's escalating containment efforts demonstrated increasing desperation as partial disclosure created administrative pressure within government oversight systems. Security alerts interrupted their analysis as facility sensors detected approaching aircraft, helicopter signatures matching military deployment patterns. The research center's location had been compromised despite their precautions. Dr. Patel activated the facility's emergency protocols designed specifically for patient protection during natural disasters or security incidents. The research level, where they had established operations, converted to self-contained operations sealing access points while maintaining essential systems. Tactical assessment confirmed what the approaching helicopter suggested. Division had deployed specialized extraction teams with sufficient resources to overwhelm the facility's civilian security measures. We need a direct approach. Daniel's strategic shift emerged from recognizing their diminishing options for evasion. Anderson himself is the vulnerability we haven't exploited. Thornton understood immediately his intelligence background, providing context for Daniel's thinking. Force a public confrontation where denial becomes impossible. The plan crystallized rapidly, using the prototype's capabilities not for escape but for direct intervention that would expose Division's illegal operations in undeniable fashion. They would turn the technology's defensive properties into a public demonstration that couldn't be concealed or mischaracterized. Olivia calculated power requirements while Daniel established secure communication with remaining allies in position to provide critical support. Noah contributed essential insights regarding field configurations, his intuitive understanding of the technology's capabilities proving invaluable to operational planning. The prototype's tracking system confirmed what their tactical assessment had suggested. Anderson was personally directing the operation from a command vehicle within the approaching convoy. His direct involvement represented both vulnerability and opportunity. Thornton secured transportation through Dr. Patel's emergency protocols, an autonomous medical evacuation helicopter designated for critical patient transfer during facility lockdowns. The aircraft's specialized systems could be reconfigured to accommodate the prototype's power requirements while providing necessary mobility. As Division's forces established perimeter containment around the facility, Daniel implemented the final preparation phase, configuring the prototype for sustained operation during aerial deployment. The field generator's recent evolutionary adaptations had created capabilities they were only beginning to understand, but which offered unprecedented tactical options. Noah's contribution remained central to their approach. His unique perception of field dynamics, allowing adjustments that engineering calculations alone couldn't optimize. His instructions, though, framed in childlike language, translated to sophisticated technical parameters. The bubbles need to be big enough to show everyone, but gentle so they don't break things. Noah's guidance integrated ethical constraints directly into the technical configuration, preventing potential harmful applications while maximizing visibility. Dr. Patel provided final medical assessment before their departure, confirming Noah's physiological status remained stable despite his extended interaction with the technology. The facility's specialized monitoring systems detected unusual neural activity, but no indications of adverse effects. Olivia secured the prototype for aerial transport, while Daniel prepared Noah for the challenging extraction ahead. The medical evacuation helicopter would depart through specialized launch facilities designed to maintain patient stability during critical transfers. Thornton established final coordination with media contacts positioned to document the ensuing confrontation, ensuring multiple independent recordings would capture events from various perspectives. The public demonstration required verified documentation to overcome official denials. The evacuation sequence initiated as division forces breached the facility's outer perimeter. The medical helicopter's emergency protocols overrode standard flight restrictions, its designated emergency status, providing temporary insulation from air traffic intervention. Daniel secured Noah in specialized medical restraints as Olivia finalized the prototype's deployment configuration. The field generator had entered a previously unobserved operational state, its internal systems adapting to their strategic requirements without explicit programming. The helicopter lifted from the secured medical platform, its emergency transponder, broadcasting legitimate patient transfer codes that would temporarily deter direct military intervention. Division's air assets tracked their departure, but maintained distance, likely awaiting Anderson's specific instructions. Their flight path targeted the one location where public confrontation would create maximum exposure, the National Mall in Washington, D.C., where morning crowds and constant media presence would ensure documentation beyond Division's ability to contain. As they approached restricted airspace, military communications demanded immediate landing at designated secure facilities. Daniel maintained their course while Thornton implemented the evidence distribution's final phase, direct transmission to all major media outlets, confirming their location and purpose. Division's response escalated predictably, military helicopters moving to intercept position while ground assets deployed around potential landing zones. Satellite imagery showed Anderson's command vehicle repositioning toward the Washington Monument grounds, coordinating the interception operation from optimal tactical position. Noah monitored the prototype's status as they entered Washington airspace, his connection to the technology providing insights beyond instrument readings. The field is ready. It wants to show everyone the truth. Daniel guided the helicopter toward their designated demonstration point, the open area between the Washington Monument and the reflecting pool, where multiple sightlines would ensure maximum visibility. Division's tactical teams had established containment positions, their deployment pattern revealing the operational dilemma Anderson faced. Direct military action against an apparent medical evacuation helicopter in public view carried significant political risk, but allowing the demonstration threatened operational security. As they initiated landing approach, Olivia activated the prototype's specialized configuration. The energy field expanded beyond all previous parameters, creating a visible hemisphere that enveloped the helicopter in pearlescent luminescence visible to thousands of onlookers across the National Mall. The unprecedented public display achieved their primary objective, irrefutable demonstration of technology whose existence Anderson had attempted to classify and contain. Civilians across the mall instinctively raised phones and cameras, capturing multiple perspectives of the phenomenon that Division could neither prevent nor control. Military response vehicles surrounded their landing position as the helicopter settled onto the grass. Daniel secured Noah while Olivia maintained the field generator's stable operation. The protective hemisphere remained intact, preventing immediate tactical intervention, while allowing visual documentation from all directions. Thornton coordinated final media approach through secure channels, ensuring journalists with appropriate credentials could document the confrontation from verified positions. The evidence package distributed earlier provided critical context for understanding the technology's significance and division's illegal pursuit. Anderson himself approached the perimeter of the energy field, his physical presence confirming operational authority in front of hundreds of witnesses. The confrontation had achieved its primary purpose before any words were exchanged, placing Division's director in undeniable connection to the technology he had attempted to classify out of existence. Noah watched through the helicopter's window as government officials and military personnel established a secondary perimeter around Anderson's position. His observation cut through tactical complexities to fundamental truth. The bad man doesn't know the bubbles won't hurt him. He's afraid because he thinks weapons have to hurt people. This insight crystallized their final demonstration parameter. Daniel adjusted the prototype's configuration through Noah's guidance, modifying the field to create a controlled opening directly facing Anderson's position. The division director's expression registered recognition as Daniel emerged through the controlled opening, carrying documentation rather than weapons. The public confrontation Anderson had desperately attempted to prevent was now unfolding before national media and hundreds of civilian witnesses. "I believe you've been looking for this technology, Colonel Anderson." Daniel's voice carried across the artificial silence created by the confrontation. "The Senate Intelligence Committee might have questions about your unauthorized domestic military deployments." Anderson's response reflected the calculation of someone evaluating rapidly diminishing options. His counter-narrative had depended on controlling information flow, a strategy rendered ineffective by direct public demonstration. The confrontation's resolution unfolded over subsequent hours as oversight authorities responded to undeniable public evidence. Military units received conflicting commands as legitimate Pentagon officials attempted to determine the actual authorization chain for domestic deployment, eventually standing down division's tactical teams pending investigation. Noah remained within the protective field throughout the controlled chaos, monitoring the technology's status, while government representatives established preliminary dialogue protocols. His unique connections to the prototype provided ongoing insights that guided operational decisions during the sensitive transition. By evening, Senate Intelligence Committee representatives had established direct oversight of the technology while initiating formal investigation into division's activities. Anderson faced preliminary questioning under significant security, while evidence preservation protocols secured documentation of unauthorized operations. Olivia worked with government scientists to establish appropriate containment and research parameters for the prototype, emphasizing its defensive applications while documenting the autonomous evolution they had observed. Noah's connection to the technology received carefully controlled scientific assessment. Dr. Patel's involvement ensuring his well-being remained the priority throughout initial evaluation protocols. Daniel provided comprehensive testimony to Oversight Committee representatives, documenting Rebecca's murder and the subsequent cover-up operation that had initiated their journey. The evidence package Jennifer had helped assemble provided critical documentation supporting criminal investigation into Division's domestic activities. 1 week after the National Mall demonstration, Daniel stood on the balcony of a secured government residence, watching Noah interact with specialized educational materials provided by the research team. His son's extraordinary abilities had attracted significant scientific interest, but protective protocols ensured his childhood remained the priority despite his unique capabilities. Olivia joined them on the balcony, her newly established position as research director for the official Protector Technology Program, providing the authority necessary to guide ethical development of her father's legacy. "The bubbles are happy now." Noah looked up from his educational tablet, his perception of the prototype's status somehow extending despite physical distance from the secured research facility. "They know they're doing what they were made for, protecting people, not hurting them." Daniel exchanged glances with Olivia, their shared journey having forged connection beyond professional collaboration. The technology's evolutionary path remained partially unpredictable, but its developmental direction now included ethical oversight absent from Division's weaponization attempts. Senate confirmation hearings had established preliminary findings regarding Anderson's unauthorized operations, with criminal proceedings scheduled pending comprehensive investigation. Jennifer had received formal recognition for her counterintelligence contributions, her security clearance reinstated with commendation. Noah returned to his educational materials. His extraordinary cognitive capabilities, balanced by typical five-year-old enthusiasm for playground time and dinosaur facts. The research team's developmental assessment had confirmed what Daniel already knew. His son was exceptional in multiple dimensions, but fundamentally remained a child deserving normal developmental experiences alongside his specialized education. The Washington Monument cast lengthening shadows across the National Mall, visible from their balcony. The scene of their public confrontation now returned to tourist activities and everyday government operations. The protective field that had captured global attention was now confined to secured research facilities, its potential applications undergoing rigorous ethical review before implementation. Olivia's hand found Daniel's on the balcony railing, their shared experience having evolved from reluctant collaboration to something deeper. The journey had transformed them all, revealing strengths, capabilities, and connections they hadn't recognized before crisis demanded their emergence. Do you miss it? Olivia's question encompassed everything they'd experienced, the danger discovery and remarkable journey that had brought them together. Daniel considered the question while watching his son, the boy's resiliency and extraordinary capabilities, a constant source of wonder. The simple life I thought we were building before all this, that was never real. It was just the absence of truth. This is better, knowing what actually happened to Rebecca, understanding what Noah can do, finding purpose in completing what your father started. Noah looked up as if sensing he was the subject of conversation, his expression reflecting wisdom beyond chronological development. We're still building a simple life, Dad. It's just bigger now with more people and better bubbles. The profound simplicity of his statement hung in the evening air as the sun set over Washington, illuminating a future none of them could have imagined when a desperate father and his fevered son had first arrived at a lonely gas station in the desert.